We want to welcome in Blake Levine. WJTV joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Blake, did you have Ole Miss go into the Sweet 16?
I have them in the Elite Eight, actually.
Whoa. Okay, so you got them beating Michigan State.
Yeah, that was like that. That was the original plan. That was when I made my bracket from the jump. I had them in the Elite Eight, and then I had them losing to Auburn.
Okay. So Blake has called this. And do we have a line yet on that game, Jackson? Ole Miss and Michigan State? Okay, we'll get that. Let's talk about the Rebels taking advantage. Iowa State's best player was out, Keyshawn Gilbert. And they couldn't score, and Ole Miss shot 58% from three-point land. How about it?
Yeah, how about 3 quarters of perfect basketball so far in the tournament for them? They had quarters, half. Three of the 4 halves have been just dead perfect A-plus halves for them. They had one really bad half, which was like a D-minus level in North Carolina, and almost cost them. But they've really played consistent this whole time. And can I make a note about the first thing you said there about Keith Carter?
Yeah.
You know, one of the greatest moves he's actually made is by not firing someone as well in Mike Bianco. Because people were calling for his head, and then they went and won the national championship. Does Ole Miss have the best trio of coaches in men's sports in the conference? Or would you say Tennessee does? Because to me, when you have Beard, Kiffin, and Bianco, I could argue that's the best trio in the conference, if not the country.
I'd go Sark, Sean Miller, and Schlossnagle. I would take that over Ole Miss. And Tennessee's Heupel, Vitello, and Barnes, I would take that over Ole Miss for sure.
But it's funny because you know we're talking about in the top 5 here as a trio, at minimum.
Yeah, 2 of the 3. I'm not sold on. I mean, we'll see what Mike does. Missouri's not any good, and I don't know if Mike's got this thing rolling again or not after 2 bad years. But Lane and Beard are phenomenal and can go toe-to-toe with any, duo football and basketball wise, just about in the conference for sure. And Keith Carter's a hell of you didn't know if Keith was, you don't ever know with anybody. And nobody knew that Lane was going to come out of Florida Atlantic and be great. And so I think Keith was able to observe what worked and what didn't work in Oxford under Ross Bjork. And from there, and being a former player, and he's super competitive, and they were kind of overachievers when they were there under Evans and knocked down a couple of NCAA tournaments. Blake, I think it was the perfect storm. He's exactly what Ole Miss needed, and he's not going anywhere. And now they've never been in this spot in the history of their athletic program as far as football and basketball.
Yeah, and kudos for the guy for jumping on NIL early and often.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of schools were hesitant and weren't really sure what to do, and he said, look, it's coming, we got to get on it, and they did. The Grove Collective, that was one of the first collectives in the country. Forget the state. They were so fast on it and so quick on it, and what happened was they won immediately with it, and people are now willing to donate because they see what they get when they pay into the program.
No question. Look, Lane drove it, but Keith had to be on board because you got to have alignment. And so they were aligned from their chancellor to their AD to their football coach. You are exactly right. For whatever reason, others weren't really sure what to do, which it was clear. You could read 3 paragraphs of it and understand what it was. I don't know why it was so hard in the world. I guess I do. In the world of college athletics and academia, but which is scary. But it was obvious this was the path and the way, and they were one of the 2 or 3 leaders in NIL in the country, and they've cashed in, Blake.
No, they absolutely have. And you talk about taking the risk with Beard and Kiffin. I actually think Kiffin was probably less of a risk because he was hiring Beard, right off the quote-unquote baggage.
Sure.
Right? Kiffin at least had his redemption through another school. And I think Kiffin was viewed by, several schools as an option. But you know what? They went up and they've stepped up and they've actually paid their coaches. I mean, think about how much they're paying some of their athletic program coaches. I mean, they're top tier at Ole Miss for all those, let's think of those Texases, the Alabamas, Georgias. They're competitive with their money. And that's why Kiffin still is there and Beard didn't take any job, after the one good season last year, where it was up and up. So I want to see if they can actually keep Beard here for longer than 3-4 years, because they've kept Kiffin a lot longer than people, because I don't know how many more Mississippi State fans are going to be, oh, he's going to Auburn this year, he's going to Florida this year. Well, he hasn't. So I'm just going to sit and wait because it seems like he likes the place.
Yeah, I think he likes it. I mean, he tried to get the LSU job. He tried to get the Miami job. He tried to get the Auburn job. Southern Cal when it opened. A month or so ago, he tried to get in with the Raiders because he had already been out there and knew Mark Davis and so on. And it's actually benefited Ole Miss that a lot of people don't like his shtick. And so it absolutely, Ole Miss fans, I think, laugh and go, that's fine. You think what he does is this, that, and the other. And some athletic directors are gun shy on him. And it's just worked out for Ole Miss, and they're going to pack the stadium again this fall and have another record student enrollment. Which, speaking of, they're not the team. I don't know what the buzz is right now, Blake Levine, with WJTV on the Out of Bounds show. I don't know. They were the team outside of the Blue Bloods last year that everybody was talking about with the college football playoff. I'm not sure they can still do it because of the schedule this year, but I'm not sure they're going to be the team with all the buzz outside the Blue Bloods this year. Do you think they will be?
No, I think you're probably right about that. I think we're looking at 8 to 9 wins, which I guess if that becomes a bad season in your program's doing really good.
Hell yeah.
Because you're right. If 8 and 9 wins is a bad season, the reality is we're talking about a possible first-round draft pick, no matter how bad Ole Miss fans got frustrated with him at times. I know they love him, now looking back at his career. But, fans were very frustrated with Jackson Dart. Oh, he's looking at Trey Harris too much. He only looks at one side of the field. Well, the NFL says he might be a first-round draft pick quarterback, and they're replacing him with a guy that has one drive last year of significance against Georgia. And while that was a great drive, the reality is it takes time for quarterbacks, no matter how young, to get into a system and play the game. So, and their defensive line is not going to be as good as it was this past season, losing guys like Nolan. Perkins comes back, but I think the defense will take a little slight back, and the offense will as well. So we're looking at 8-9 wins to me.
Yeah, let's go through that. So at Georgia and then it's pretty. I mean, the two home games are really outside of at Georgia are the tough ones. LSU and Florida. Do you agree with that? As you look at the schedule,
I think it's the same 3 games as last year, right? Just reversed on where they're playing them.
Yeah,
because Florida's now the darling that Ole Miss was last year.
I think you may be right, Blake. Yeah. With Lagway's a dude, man. I mean, he is. He's
got to be in the top 5 Heisman favorites, right? I mean, if they win with their schedule, if they win, it's because he is Superman.
God, if they had Ole Miss's schedule, they would really be rolling. But they've got a brutal schedule. See, Arch Manning's got an easier schedule. So Arch won at Texas because of the name. I think you're right. Top 5: Arch Manning, Lagway, and a couple other guys will be the front runners for the Heisman. But if he pulls this off with this schedule, holy smokes! They don't play till late in the year, Blake. It's the year. I think it's the game before the Egg Bowl, or 2 games before the Egg Bowl, when Ole Miss will host the Florida Gators. Mississippi State gets the awesome opportunity to go to Gainesville this year, right when Florida is hitting their stride. Blake Levine, WJTV Sports, joining us on the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN. So you've got Ole Miss at somewhere around 8 or 9 football wins this year.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair and safe. I just think that's a safe. I bet you their over/under is going to be 8.5. I could almost guarantee that's what it's going to be.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I do. if you look at their road at Kentucky early, and Kentucky was awful last year, so that'll be interesting. Austin Simmons has to go on the road to Lexington game 2. What will that look like? All right, so let's switch gears. What did you make of the Brandon High School, Sam Williams taking the job down in Mobile? And it was Herbert Davis and Lance Pogue. And Herbert Davis is staying at MRA, and Brandon will announce Lance Pogue today. What'd you make about that? What'd you make of that?
Yeah, I thought those were two really good candidates. It was. I wouldn't say that it came out of nowhere that Sam left, because I think Sam has big aspirations in life. I'd like to think that he actually wants to be a college football coach one day, and maybe this gets him a little bit closer. I don't know how, but you know what? Maybe that's what he's thinking. I know he was really impressed with the school down there, and wanted to change up the lifestyle a little bit. And kudos to him. Sam's a great person. He's a great football coach, great offensive mind. So, one, I'm just happy for him as just a human being. When it comes to the Brandon football coaching job, that's one of the best coaching jobs in the state. I was happy that the whole list of guys that they were interviewing, because they interviewed a lot of people. Herbert, Lance Pogue, I would have loved to have seen Herbert take this on. I thought that would have been really cool to see, especially with the type of offense that he runs, which is, high flying, guys throw the ball. I think that would have, with those athletes, Brandon, it would have been really fun to watch. Pogue, look, at the end of the day, he's the one national champion coach in this state. So you can't go wrong when you hire that guy.
Yeah.
The only thing is I was surprised, Pogue, since he's left South Panola, he's been at 4 places in the last 5 years.
I know. The J thing didn't work out. Where was he this past year?
Heritage, and then Columbia. Went to Heritage and then went to Columbia, and now he's at Brandon.
Okay, how did it go at Heritage last year? Do you know?
Well, it was 2 years ago, and he had a really good season there. And then at Columbia, they didn't have the type of season that they recently have had, but they lost a lot of really talented players, and even lost some players to the quote unquote high school transfer portal. I know it's tough for people to hear that, but Columbia lost some kids in the portal to all of a sudden another school in the area. Not going to name names. So. But I thought they were solid last year. He's done good everywhere he's been. I was surprised when I saw that it was 4 and 5 years.
Okay, I don't know how long he was at JA. Maybe that was a 2 or 3 year run, and then you mentioned bouncing around. Yeah, this will be interesting because Brandon's we're visiting with Blake Levine, WJTV Sports. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. We covered Beard. And March Mania and Oxford, is both their teams are going to the Sweet 16. Keith Carter owns the state of Mississippi. He is the most powerful guy in the state of Mississippi. And when you make hires like Lane Kiffin and Chris Beard, that's what happens. And then we're going to the Brandon job. Brandon is desperate to win. So in the last few years, they've watched Clinton win it for the first time ever, which is hard to believe. They watched Madison Central finally win it again. They've got 2 championships in whatever it is, 30, 40 years. And they've got all the athletes. They roll out 100 players a year. Brad Peterson was going to win big there, but he left. Sam was going to win big there, but he left. And now you get Lance Pogue, and Lance is a good coach, but he's not Sam Williams or Brad Peterson or Herbert Davis. Blake, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Lance Pogue to get this thing, to get back in the championship game and win this thing sooner than later. And I think it's going to be a lot more difficult than people think. Your thoughts?
I think yes. I think winning big, because I think Tupelo is the overwhelming favorite once again this year with the type of players they have. But again, that would be a state championship game if they got there. I think the good part for Brandon and Lance Pogue is, and I know every coach would hate to hear this, but sometimes, us media people have to be the ones that look at it from the outside and say these things. Brandon could roll the ball out there, and they're going to win pretty much every single game this year outside of a couple.
True.
Just by rolling the ball out there.
Right.
Because of the type of talent that they have. And I know that sounds funky. No coach would ever admit that. But the reality is the reality. If they roll the ball out against Pearl, they're going to win the football game. They're just going to. So we're talking about the Oak Groves of the world that they need to get through, because I don't think any team on the coast is going to beat them. I don't see any team other than Oak Grove in their region that's going to beat them. So they really may only be playing one game to get to a state championship. They should be in the Final Four again, as long as they just, kids are healthy and everything just kind of stays on course.
Yeah, this is going to be fascinating because, again, the pressure to win out there after coming up short, left and right is that's going to mount. So, So Tupelo is who's the favorite for you in the South? Is it Brandon or someone else, Blake?
Yeah, I think it's Brandon. I absolutely do. I think Oak Grove has a really good team, and I wouldn't say that they're they're a huge underdog to Brandon. I just say Brandon's, let's say Brandon's at level 10 and Oak Grove's at level 9.5. I mean, I think those are the two best teams, and it's pretty. Then the gap between who's the third best team is in that 6-7 range. I mean, I think then there's a big gap.
Okay, and think about Herbert Davis obviously would have been a tremendous hire. And that was a big win for MRA to keep him because that thing looked interesting a week ago. Think about this. Herbert, with 2 years ago, came within a point of beating Oak Grove. And last year he hammered them. And those weren't near his most talented teams. So think about that. Talking about how good a coach he is. Don't you agree with that, Blake?
I 100% agree with that, and he's won everywhere he's been, and then on top of that, he's just a good human being. And I always, when we're dealing with high school kids here, that's one of the most important things I look at. Is this a good person that I would want my son or daughter to be around in a school hall? And you know what? Can he coach football as well? Yes, he's an excellent football coach. But I want my kids to learn under him as a man. So, yes, I think he's just a great coach.
And here's so Herbert's one of the top 5 offensive coaches in the state of Mississippi. And, of course, he's had John White, some other players who are unbelievable. But Herbert always moves the ball and scores. Here's the deal, though. Lance Pogue struggles on offense. And so I guess if Wyatt Rogers stays at Brandon, which I'm assuming Will Rogers' dad stays as offensive coordinator, but I have no idea. And Lance leaves him alone because Brandon can always be good on defense because what you just said, they're just stacked, just full of athletes. Then this should work at a fairly high level. Am I going down the right road, Blake, if that happens?
Yeah, I think you're going down the right road. I mean, I don't think Brandon's going cheap on assistants. I think that Pogue will be able to have who he would like.
Okay. All right. Well, this is crazy.
Can I say one more thing before I let you go because we never got here?
Yeah.
Yeah, can I say one more thing? I don't know how much time we got left, but if I'm a Mississippi State fan right now of just athletics or baseball, I mean, how are you feeling right now? I'm someone that has no allegiance to either one of these schools. I'm from California, so take that how you will. But if you're a Mississippi State fan of just athletics right now, how are you feeling watching everything that Ole Miss is doing?
Oh, look, you've gone through athletic directors. You've gone through football coaches. Now rent is due. You've made bad decision after bad decision post Dan Mullen. Jans is fine. He's good. 3 NCAA tournaments in a row is good. It looks like they're trending towards a change in baseball with Lemonis, unless now look, the back half of the schedule is a bunch of winnable games, but we'll see. And people on my text line are questioning whether can Selman go out and make a good hire. I mean, he hired Jeff Levy. Yeah. Levy went 2-10. You could have had Brett.
It was worse than Arnett.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That much. Now, granted, that's when all the talent left that last year. And I know it wasn't a loaded team, but good hell, that was the worst team in my lifetime that I've watched, talent-wise and coaching-wise, in my last 40 years is what we witnessed last season. And good, Levy's one of the most positive people, and yet last week he talked about that offensive line, and it sounds like it's much closer to Wofford than SEC. So I don't know what in the hell they're going to do with that schedule. one of the toughest schedules in the country. But no, I think State fans are irate, and they're wondering what the hell's going on, and they got to get rolling, and they could have a new baseball coach. So, all right, bud. Blake Levine, WJTV Sports. We'll talk soon. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you.
He has Ole Miss going to the Elite Eight in his bracket. He's got them beating Michigan State and Tom Izzo this Friday night. So he picked them all the way through. The winner of North Carolina and San Diego State was UNC. They won. They blew out Iowa State. And now they play Tom Izzo and Michigan State. One of our texters on the text line says that Tom Izzo's overrated. He's living off of winning the national championship in 2000 over Billy Donovan and the Florida Gators. That may be a little extreme. 8 Final Fours. How many other people do? We are live in the Bank Plus studio. Lunch today brought to you by Burgers Blues Barbecue in Dogwood, Flowwood. They got blue plates, amazing smash burgers, and sandwiches and onion rings. Blue plates at Burgers, Blues, and Barbecue, Dogwood, Flowwood.